Guys, it is another Friday. Another Friday. And it's a blessed Friday, to be honest. Like, I've been having a really good day, y'all. I hope y'all have been having a really good day. I hope you have a really good week, too. My day is doing pretty good. You know, less arguments and stuff like that. Good communication. We kind of hate that. Speaking of good communication, oh man, I had like a whole thing planned. I was gonna get into like some weird Lulu stuff and but I feel like I gotta like address this subject because like I feel like I'm sorry y'all. Working so I'm gonna do real quick. But anyway, you know, Trump has been doing a lot of good things, but there's some things that I feel like he's slipping up on. Like he's starting to like change his direction on things, like with the tariffs and things like that. Like I wasn't totally against him going back on that a little because of the fact that we want to narrow it on our enemies. Like narrowing tariffs on enemies is really good. Blanket tariffs, I'm still like pro blanket tariffs to be honest with you. I think it actually creates a level of balance, almost like a reasonable doubt, that China can't, break through. It's not like, we're saying, oh, it's not like everybody else is, tariffs, but you have accepted that tariffs because you're antagonistic to the United States of America. That totally makes sense to me. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that to me. But now he's done something, and I'm like, okay, now that's like, Lord, has something to do with immigration. And there's one other it's not coming to mind. It's like one of those things like, I kind of like flew over because of the fact like he was doing so well. But now that we're taking this, like, we're starting to make like a little 30-degree angle in the, to right or left, whatever. I kind of feel like I have to bring it up scoreboard and say, okay, you have to go like 2 more times. Like, it's not like really setting up. And like, I don't know if I want to do more. And I'm gonna be like, "Rob, like, you know, say you're my friend," we're gonna like really, frankly, like I support Trump to the end. I will do some of these things that he does that I don't like. I mean, you know, look at 2019, 2020, and stuff like that. Like there's some things there that I definitely, I'm gonna question and call him out on. But I felt the energy that he had, changed his mind and like maybe this is just like reinforcing things that are like, all are conversations. I'm not saying like, oh, Trump is evil or anything. And I'm not saying like he purposely like, like worships like demonic things or is possessed by anything like that. What I'm saying is like often like the title is so like when one becomes president, you know, they are surrounded by an archonic spirit because of the title they hold. And like, do they have the energy? Do they have the power to control it? Can they control it all the time? Will there be slip ups? I'm sure there's slip ups and everything. I mean, look throughout the history of presidents. I mean, people say, "Oh, well, we're just human." It's like, well, yeah, that's the human factor, right? because we're influenced by these things. But anyway, I haven't even talked about, like, what exactly is going on, and so, like, I'm just gonna play this video, and it should really, like, any inquiry of what the hell I'm talking about. I can't hear it. Can y'all hear it? Let me make sure. Everything should be working. Okay, okay, hold on. I think I know what's going on. I gotta turn this off. It always messes up every time I wanna listen to music while doing this, so I just gotta stop doing that. Oh, I know what's going on. Never mind. Ugh, that's another thing I gotta make sure I don't do. Don't connect it to echo when I'm doing this. Okay, let's do this again. I'm pretty sure y'all watched that, and I was talking all the way through that. So let's redo this, okay? This is one of those we take the guns first and then we legislate later moments. Oh god, I hate it. I hate that so much. Ugh. Like that just like what's the point of making the fucking law if you're gonna have like all of these incentives to skirt around it? You know what I mean? Makes absolutely no sense to me. Um yeah, like I said, this is like strike two for me for Trump. Uh Man, it actually really disappoints me because, like, if he didn't have a plan in line to do this, to do like this radical change, then why? Why fucking say these things? Why do that? You know what I mean? Like, you I feel like as a leader, you need to have like a basic plan in mind. And then you need to have like people who specialize in these things to help you bring that plan to life. Okay. Where's the fucking hiccup? Is it the fact that there is no general idea? It's just like, let's do this thing and let's see what it does. Because if we're just experimenting like that, like, well, fuck that, Uh, I want I want like measured action, like if we're going to send the illegals out, which I really hope we're going to really do, um we need to have a plan in line to start trying to get like food in the right places and people producing better food. Like, see, that's why I thought it was gonna like I kind of thought it was gonna happen. Maybe it was naive of me, but I felt like he had a plan to radically change the infrastructure of like how we're getting our food in the first place to like start removing GMOs and stuff like that out of the market and slowly like start like removing dyes and blah blah blah. You know, the whole RFK Maha thing, right? And because like I kind of figured like illegal immigration was gonna like affect the food markets and stuff like that. I mean, like anybody who didn't think that is like really fucking stupid. Okay. like I'm sorry, like that's just how it works. Like there's people that are doing like really shit labor jobs, that are like coming into the country illegally that a lot of people don't want to do. No, I'm not saying that there's not people that wouldn't want to do those jobs. And like that's the reason why I'm mad about this because there is like a sector of people that would want those jobs that could do those jobs effectively. And I mean, like there's so many different pathways we can take with it, but like bringing back the people who are breaking the law and stuff like that, like I don't know. I guess it's because maybe I'm coming at this from a moral framework. You know what I mean? Like instead of like a legalistic framework, but maybe he's thinking legalistically, and I'm sitting here thinking moralistically. And I'm like, well, if you keep on like having these people who don't believe in your country and believe in your laws, like breaking the law to get into your country, you're gonna have a country full of people who don't respect your laws and don't want to follow your laws. And like I really thought that's like what we're trying to stop here. But now he's trying to I like it feels like he's trying to incentivize ethical behavior. But the thing is that you can't incentivize ethical behavior by rewarding the people who broke the ethical behavior in the first place. That makes no fucking sense to me. I don't know. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But hey, you know, I knew there had to be something, right? Because like I was like, bro, they're fucking putting aliens in the news again. There's definitely something going on that we're not paying attention to, or they're gonna want to like pull the attention off. But like I know. I feel like they kind of like did it in the wrong order or something, or like maybe the news wasn't like big enough in the alien world and shit like that to like really cling to it. I know I'm tired of the alien shit. I don't know if y'all are. Like I'm really tired of it. Like if fucking ET is gonna phone home, from Earth, like I want to see him, like interact, like this isn't the 1940s or 20s or whatever. Like, this is 2025, and like, we all want to meet a fucking alien. Not only that, I'm pretty sure like half of us want to be like taken off the earth already. So, like, it's not like they wouldn't be welcomed. I don't know. I do not know. But, yeah, like I said, aliens again. So supposedly there's like this um new alien footage, and there's more from sailors and bullshit like that. But we're gonna watch the video real quick. I haven't watched it, but we'll go through that slideshow again. Trust. I'm not trying to do good stuff. Mm, mm. I don't think this is even the one like that was being talked about. If this is it, this kind of sucks. I can I can see why now. So like if that's it, this can't be it. But it says it is, man. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like I think all of us are desensitized already to this alien bullshit. I think that if, this is gonna happen, like already, come on. But here they are. They look like dots in the sky. That's another thing I hate about these images. Like it's just like it looks like nothing to me. Like yeah, I mean it's weird. I guess. I guess if they're shocked about it, I should be shocked about it, right? I don't know. I know nothing about flying in the sky, but I don't know, man. I feel like it's just like I feel like even though I've been having see that's another thing. That's another thing. That's how I know that something is up. Because I've been having a really good fucking week. I'm telling y'all. I usually don't have like these amazing weeks, but this week I've been like feeling like so embodied and so like focused and things of that nature. And like, I don't know, just like I don't know. It's just been nice and happy. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck is Yaldabaoth up to? That's how I feel. That's really how I feel. Because like you got these distraction tactics, right? And then man, like one of the big questions I gotta ask is like any of this shit even real? And that's like one of my big bugaboos. You know what I'm saying? Because like Yaldabaoth is like a master of illusions. You know? Like he created this world. He we got the whole idea of the Maya, like the veil of confusion and things of that nature. And so like one of those things is like this. Like this. People are like sharing like nasty things about celebrities just like constantly, all the time, But now a whole new layer of it is like these influencers online are like acting like these really aggressive paparazzi in a way, and not just by changing up these pictures, but I'll show you in a second. Like being a paparazzi is like way different now because like now you have your camera in your pocket, you know what I mean? Like it's not just your cell phone, it's like a whole camera and everything. You don't have to have that big thing and like, do all that crazy shit paparazzi you used to have to do now. Like now you could like probably run a whole channel being paparazzi. You could probably beat out TMZ now because like, social media has just changed the game. Not giving anyone any ideas, for God's sake, please. But look, see, people are like, oh, what happened to Justin Bieber? He just had a baby. Now he looks like a crackhead. And like literally, there's literally nonstop nothing but like, oh, the poor guy. Oh, he used to be so wholesome. And then like, oh, he had it rough. And then people are like making jokes about the whole P. Diddy bullshit. And it's like, why would you make jokes about that? Because like Justin Bieber was a child when it happened. You know what I mean? Like no one's sitting there making jokes about Macaulay Culkin, and stuff like that. Like people hardcore portray him as a victim. Why is Justin Bieber anything less? You know what I mean? Like I feel like the only thing that made Macaulay Culkin different from Justin Bieber, from like the whole Hollywood abuse and the whole like, industry abuse is the fact that Macaulay Culkin got really into drugs and like I don't know, he just like really fell off the wagon. Like he like that destroyed him, you know? And I guess he didn't get the parts that he wanted or maybe he didn't get the movies he wanted and things of that nature, and maybe it messed with him. Where Justin Bieber, like maybe Macaulay Culkin just didn't have the support system Justin Bieber had, in the way of like having parents that like, like pushed him to work and like made sure he didn't do drugs. You know what I mean? But like, not in a good way, because like, of course Justin Bieber's parents were like fucking parasitic as hell. Like look at, like, they ate off of his talent. You know, and that's another thing. Like Justin Bieber had a talent that like just could churn out things constantly, content, and like, and that's what this new era is all about, right? And like in this new era too, you have like the death of like film in Hollywood. So like, poor Macaulay Culkin, because of the abuse and things of that nature, he's an early introduction to People Hate Hollywood. And man, I it's just like it's horrible how like things like that happen for different people. But that's how that there's like other forces at play and things of that nature. And like I said, like it depends on what your talent is. Like if one industry is dying and one industry is just like, perpetuating itself constantly, like, yeah. Because like so far they haven't wokeified music, really, besides the fact of like, cool, of course, like sexualizing it. But music has always had a sexual nature to it. Like, I don't know why, like, like, and no disrespect to anybody watching, but like, I know a lot of boomers out there that like go like, "Oh, in our days, music wasn't like that," and stuff like that. And it's like they had whole songs about like, yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy. And it's like, come on. Like everyone knows what that means now, like what that song is about. So like I don't know what the fuck they're no, like what innocent music they're speaking of. I mean, because like if they're talking about church music or something like that, I mean, you can find that out now, like KLTY or some bullshit like that. I don't know. Some famous Christian radio. I don't really listen to Christian radio. I find God in all music, honestly, but not. I don't like. I tend to listen to rock that doesn't like get into like, oh, Patakuchi, or like or like I slept with a bunch of chicks and yeah, like that's just not my kind of rock. Like you know, I'm a sad little emo boy, and so yeah, I find God in those kind of lyrics. Like this is kind of like going off subject, but let's just see where the spirit takes us. Uh, there is a band that I like called 21 Pilots. I'm sure everyone's heard of them. I mean, that's kind of why I picked them, because like I don't want to like pick like, oh, I don't know, American football, and like no one knows who the hell American football is. And they got that song Car Radio. Like, and this is what I think is like good American culture. I consider this good American culture. I literally don't know the political beliefs or anything like that of these guys or anything like that. I try so hard not to fish or look into the political beliefs of people I love listening to. I only start making a big whoop or anything like that whenever they start like expressing their political beliefs and like doing it on stage and like using their stage as a platform to like fucking talk about some weird political bullshit they probably don't even believe, and most of the time it sounds like they don't believe it. Like uh Haley Williams of Paramore. Man, I fucking loved Paramore, dude. I I first started getting into my rock vocal technique through Paramore because like I had such a high tenor voice and things of that nature that I didn't really like find songs that I really liked to sing unless it was like usually female singers, and I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, like so I first started developing my vocal technique through Paramore because I just like fucking love their music, their lyrics, everything about it. And then they go off and be all political and bullshit. Well, anyway, like what makes it, I mean, what sucks for me about it is like there's a lot of like wisdom in these songs, okay? Believe it or not. Like I'm not sure if like the guys who are in this band actually wrote this song, like because like a lot of times like bands have people like come in like musicians and like write the music and then write the lyrics and things of that nature and then they perform it. But I don't think these guys are like that. I'm not sure. Again, that's not something I really dig into. I probably should though. For these guys, I mean, it's not that I don't look into that a lot, but for these particular guys, I haven't looked into that. Like, I haven't really looked into their musicianship and things of that nature. I'm sorry, I'm like really gassy. I don't know why. But anyway, let's look at these lyrics. I ponder something great. My lungs will fill and then deflate. They fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's dire, my time today. I have these thoughts so often I ought to replace that slot. Yeah, with what I once bought because somebody stole my car radio and now I just sit in silence. Like, ugh, do you hear that? Like, suck that in. Like, to me, it's talking about how people don't want to think and they don't want to discover themselves so badly. Like, it's so scary, like, finding out who you are and realizing maybe you're not going the right direction that you want to in life, or maybe like facing the facts that you're like maybe the mirror image of someone that you really hate in your life, or like or something, things of these nature. And like, so people want to avoid these things, these realizations, the things that actually make you great. But people feel like, oh, if I avoid it, if I avoid the big questions, like, oh, well, that's like, I'm not gonna have problems. But actually, all like, you have so many problems surrounding you. But sometimes you're like, you create delusions, like, like we all create our reality by our perception, right? So like, you create these illusions like, oh, well, I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm not hurting anybody. But you may not realize that your base behavior just fucking sucks. And so to gain awareness of that, we meditate. A lot of us meditate, do things of that nature. There's like all kinds of things you can do, to become aware of this. Rituals, breathing exercises, whatever. Different traditions do it different ways. And so I always like look at this and I'm like thinking, like this is like a huge mystery. Like, the whole fact that he's pondering something great, right? I ponder something great. My lungs will fill and then deflate. So, like, that's like, if you meditate, like, that's like setting you up for meditation right there. Like, he's becoming aware of his breath. And then that awareness of breath brings forth awareness of self, like, what are you doing in your life? What's going wrong? Everything I just listed. And then, like, of course, like, when we first get into those mindsets, we think of the cool, exciting things, right? Like we think of the big ideas, so like something that like gets us really going. So they fill with fire, exhale desire. I know it's dire, my time today, and that's where it goes. So They fill with fire, exhale desire. Like he has become passionate by a thought that came to him by him just like being aware of his breath. But then he goes, I know it's dire, my time today. That's a momentum mori, right? Something that makes you aware of death. Like, and like our passions, if we're not grounded, if we're not embodied with our own spirituality, if we're not, focused with our North Star towards the light of God and like, whatever it is you may believe, particularly anybody that's watching this, if you're not focused on that, whenever you're working on your passions or whenever a passion comes over you, like that can turn into something dark because it's like, man, do I have time for that? I never have time for anything. Uh, my life is just like running out and like I can't do anything I want to do. And like those kind of thoughts eat at you. And those are the things that like freeze you from taking on that thing you want to do. And he expresses that right here. I have these thoughts so often I ought. So often I ought what? What should you do because you have these thoughts? Because like, he's having a negative, most people have a negative association to coming into realization of who you are, your finiteness, and how you're not physically infinite. You know what I mean? Because like, when we first start these things, we're not fully embodied. We're not fully anchored. We're not fully grounded. That's not how any of this starts. No, first comes the awareness. Then we take on those things and do things to keep us grounded and put us in a grounded place. But, for some of us, that comes a lot later because, for some of us, we just don't know what the fuck we're doing. And so, I feel like, in the song Car Radio, he is putting himself, the singer or the band is like putting himself in like the everyday person. So, like, whenever he says, I have these thoughts so often I ought, he is being, the everyday person, right? So, and he goes, to replace that slot with what I once bought. Okay, so, like, obviously we're talking about car radio, like, oh, big revelation there. Because somebody stole my car radio. Like, let's just do these lines together. To replace that slot with what I once bought, I guess somebody stole my cardio. Okay. So this kind of gets into like materialism, right? So like, we buy these things and like we distract ourselves from the true reality of what we need to take care of. You know what I'm saying? And like, and this can look like many different things. Some people do it with uh of course, like some people do it with politics, right? And like some people do it with video games, or some people will do it with comic books, or some people will do it with movies, and some people do it with sports, food, alcohol, drugs, whatever. Something to tune your brain out. Something, like, that's your car radio, man. To tune you out. You know what I'm saying? And I just love that symbolism because like I just love music and I can see where like I can be kind of escapist if I'm not careful. But thank God I got, like I don't know, I just have like a different mindset. I feel like I was born with it or something. And like I've always looked at music as something like mystical, so I've always looked for more in the music. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I guess it's just like maybe my brain recognizing the poetry of lyrics. I don't know. But anyway, and now I just sit in silence. And now he's back to the awareness of the silence. And then like, man, and it just like it gets even better, really. And he says sometimes quiet is violent. Mm. You know, like because like some people have like such a negative perception of themselves, man. You know, some people are so nasty with themselves. I can't even explain how long I have wasted time and years on like just like fucking with myself, right? You know, just like saying all kinds of nasty and negative things that are like completely unnecessary. You know, I man, like, and it's the voice of different people, right, in our lives. Like sometimes, uh, it's not even like something that just like happened. You know, like these are things like people have said to you like, oh, you'll never do this, or like now you realize like life is like this and stuff like that. And so like people are trying to press their negative perceptions on you. You know what I mean? But like you got to break that cycle, man. But anyway, so dude has problems with silence. Quiet is violent. Okay, and now he's like, I find it hard to hide it. I find it hard to hide it. My pride is no longer inside, it's on my sleeve. My skin will scream, reminding me of who I killed inside my dream. I hate this car that I'm driving. Ooh, man, that's just so heavy shit. Like, and like, that's just like what I got done talking about, right? So, like, whenever we give in to these negative things, whenever we take on these negative personas that have been put on us, we don't take on the dreams that we want. We don't, like, and sometimes we necessarily don't know what we want. Sometimes we're so confused about who we are, we don't know what we want, what we like, and just who we are in general. And sometimes it's like that's a scary place to be. And like, can you imagine being this person? Your car radio is stolen, and like something that you've loved all your life is music, and that's how you like get out and go to like your mental paradise, and now it's gone. You don't have that cover, you don't have that pacifier. You know what I mean? Ooh, man. And so like, of course, like you're gonna have like if you're like really hurt like and you never really realize it, like things are gonna surface, like your skin is gonna scream. Like, have you ever been so upset or like realized something so traumatic that like your skin literally starts to burn? Like, oh my god, like, oh, I hate that. So reminding me of who I killed inside my dream, of course. And I hate this car that I'm driving, even though he loved it, but he loved it for the escapism. There's no hiding from me. I'm forced to deal with what I feel. There is no distraction to mask what is real. I could pull the steering wheel. Oh, see? That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're not ready, like that's a really interesting that I have always thought was like weird and like crazy about mystical and magical and ritualistic technology is this idea that if you're not ready for the light, you should say so, because like in this moment in initiation, like because like this idea comes from an initiation, one of the first initiations in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It says, if you're not ready to take on this, this light, the light can blind you. The light doesn't just reveal, like it can blind you if you're not ready. And so like and I believe like that's like right before you take your vow. um I can't remember, it's been a while, but um yeah, like this is an abundance of light for this person, and this is just because they've been avoiding things in their life with music. And like think about that. There's like people doing that all the fucking time with all kinds of things, all kinds of things. Like, and it can be like so innocent. Like, there can be a guy that has to have like Hubba Bubba gum. You know what I mean? Like, specifically Hubba Bubba gum, right? There can be a dude or a chick out there, and they could love Hubba Bubba gum. And like, if they don't have their fucking Hubba Bubba gum for the day, like, oh, they're a demon. They become Satan's best friend. And it's because, like, I don't know, like this person might have created some kind of positive association life or whatever, but there's something about that that brings them into a place in their mind that that makes them, feel safe, feel whole. They're and one of the reasons, like, my mind is kind of like on that right now because like I'm like really upset with Trump, and I know they're like trying to distract with the whole UFO thing, and like so I'm just like, you know what, I don't know. I just like sometimes I want to like reveal everything that I write for the order and stuff like that, because like I know a lot of this could like help in so many different ways. But like, that's one thing though. Like, if you're gonna like do these type of things, like, you gotta do them. You know what I mean? And I have noticed, like, whenever I have introduced some of this stuff to some people, like, they're critical of it because they're like, well, I don't want to get up and do this. I don't want to get blah blah blah. There's like always some excuse to not heal. You know what I mean? And so, for healing and things like that, that's just like it's so personal that like you just have to leave an open door for people. You know what I mean? Like, create a group, whatever it is you want to do, to help people and stuff like that. Create that thing. Like, don't hold back. Like, seriously, and don't worry about how people are going to feel about it, because people have all kinds of crazy beliefs and stuff like that. And that's why orders are protective. That's why there's initiations. That's why like they try to get to know you and stuff like that before you can like actually come into the order. Because an order is a family, man, and it's not just a family, but it is a spiritual harmony. So, a lot of us believe, I don't know about y'all particularly watching this, but New Agers, Christians, the Orthodox, you know, um, the Kabbalistic Jews, they all believe that we're all going to unite one day with God. Those who didn't, like for the Christians who did the right thing, whatever. But most of us have this belief that like we're going to unite with God one day and stuff like that. Everybody has like a different process of how that happens and stuff like that. And man, I just lost my point. I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me. But man, what was that? Don't y'all hate that? I don't know if that ever happens to y'all, but that happens a lot in my family. I don't know why. But hmm, what was that? Man. Oh, okay. So being protective in order. So why? Okay. A lot of us believe that we're gonna unite with God one day, right? So um and everyone has a different process of how that happens, right? So like for the Christians, they have this idea that the church represents a bride to Christ. So everyone within the church is that's baptized is basically literally being married to Christ. Like that's how it works, you know? And together, mystically, the souls will combine to be one bride to Jesus, to Christ, whatever, you know? And then Christ will unify with his bride, and then the bride and Christ as one will unify with the Father, and so on and so forth, you know? Like that's kind of like what they believe will happen, you know? Maybe not all Christians understand it that way, but if you read your Bible, like that's what it says. um, but yeah, so like in most mystical understanding of things, like that's kind of how it works. Like, we connect with something higher, and that even higher thing connects with God, and we're all going to unify one day and turn into one. Well, when you have an order and stuff like that, people like you got to be protective of who you let in and stuff like that, because not all frequencies resonate together. Like some people have very eclectic views of spirituality and magic and stuff like that. Then you have people who don't even believe in magic at all and are definitely not eclectic. And then you have eclectic people who don't believe in magic and just like believe in worshiping the gods and praying to gods. And then you have all these variations of mystical and religious expression. Like if you're going to create an organization of people, you cannot have all these people together like working together, because their expression of spirituality, their expression of ritual, their whole idea of what that looks like will be so fundamentally different from each other that some people will be so offended by what other people are doing and the audaciousness or the lack of braveness to approach the deity. You know what I mean? Like there's so many ideas and ways of thinking like you, the reason why orders are like that, the reason why orders don't share stuff like that and share everything, is because this is for the privy of the order. This, it's our teachings basically. And like you got to think about what happened to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Like they were a good organization, right? And of course they were having their problems, but until a Crowley came and started like publishing shit and started publishing stuff from their order, like that was completely out of money for notoriety, for fame, you know? Like that wasn't helping anybody. And I don't think it really helped like anybody at all, really, especially in the West. I mean, like, look what's going on, and it's because like this guy like embodied and took on what people said and called him as the B666 and stuff like that. Like if you get into like Crowley's early work, it's just like any other like Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn magic and stuff like that. But then he starts like going like really deep into like the left hand path, you know? And like you can have your arguments like, oh, left hand path doesn't mean this, blah 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 blah. Like, okay, whatever. But you get into the teachings of Crowley, and like he can be very vague about things and stuff like that. Like he'll say things like sacrifice your children. Like, of course, we all know that he's talking about ejaculation, right? Like, for the use of like ritual technology and magical technology. Um but there's people that are gonna like take that maybe too seriously. And like even if you're not, even if, okay, let's say everybody, like, let's say it's a perfect world and everybody understood like he's not talking about like literal like kids that have already been born, blah blah blah, right? The issue becomes the whole idea that you're even creating that symbol of like sacrificing, like, of like, Isaac and Abraham type of thing, like, but except, you're not being like Abraham and like stopping before you do the deed, right? Before you do the sacrifice. Like, no, you're like, you're going all the way with it in your mind, of course, because like, we're talking about like ejaculation, right? And then like, like that has like a bunch of fundamental problems because there is so many teachings and like Eastern, like not only like in Western thought but in Eastern thought about like seminal retention and how that, builds the light body and discipline and things of that nature. And so like for Crowley to come up with this like libertine like spirituality that is just like all out, do what like exactly what he says, do what thou wilt, should be the whole of the law. Like he is kind of like, he is a source of wokeness. Like he really is. And like people can say, oh, it's because like, oh, it's Gnosticism and stuff like that. But I have proven over and over and again, and I have written about it so many times. And like even through my own practice, I have proven like this is not like what Crowley was doing was not Gnosticism, man. And like it's more like so you know how you have Satanism, you know? You have Satanism where it's like the antithesis of Christianity, right? To the point to where the original Levian church, performed these their black masses like literally like backwards of like how you would do a Catholic mass and like perverted it. So like I feel as though Crowley is doing the same thing with like the Gnostic teachings. He's like pulling out these like sexually suggestive things and then putting it into praxis and then saying like, oh, this is like true Gnostic spirituality, here you go, like here's a fucking cum cookie, like like not like that is like literal, fucking literal, bro. Okay, like I tell you right here, right now, in the Mystical or the Nazarene, nobody's eating fucking cum cookies. Okay. Oh my god, dude. Like, man, like I really feel, it's so funny because like I used to be so private about my spirituality. But then like whenever I started reading about Crowley and I started getting really into his works, you know what I mean? Like some of his stuff is like so good, like man. But then, like, when he starts going on his Thelema bent and he, like, is like talking about do what you will and blah, 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 like, that's where he just, like, loses me, man. Like, it's like, couldn't you just been an awesome magician? Um, yeah. And like, I just, like, I have, like, such a problem with his version of Gnosticism. It's not even, man, it's just crazy. Like, but the thing is like, I feel like in Crowley's view of, his version of what is Gnosticism, uh he wants to keep all of these pagan ideas, like he wants to keep all of these like ancient mysteries and stuff like that. And so I feel like that's where like a lot of that stuff comes from, or that type of practice. I think besides eating a fucking cum cookie, okay, especially in public with other people, um but besides doing something like that, there's like a lot of stuff that I'd be like, okay, what Crowley's talking about here is not that bad. Like, sex magic and sexual rituals, like as a whole, are not all that bad. Like it depends on like what you're doing, how you approach it, things of that nature. You know, I definitely wouldn't tell you do what you want and like, you're gonna be like super enlightened when you do it. Like I think there's even a line from one of Crowley's books. God, I can't remember which one. Maybe it's the Book of Lies. I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but it's one of like I think it is like literally a Thelema text, and I think Crowley literally instructs you to like shit on yourself, like to be like fully clothed, sit down in a meditative position, okay, like relax, and then like just defecate on yourself while I believe you're supposed to visualize something. I can't really remember. Like I said, like me personally, I like look into like all these boxes. Like man, I do a lot of research on spirituality and magic and stuff like that. But I have like a very specific like worldview on and like perspective on what's going on spiritually, like what's happening in the spiritual world from like what I've experienced in life, what I've experienced in meditations and things of that nature. And so like that's why I do magic and ritual the way I do it. I approach it that way. And like I hate this like weird pompous attitude, and I think it's because like it's a lot of like children of people who like became enlightened back when they were hippies or whatever, and then they had kids and they had kids. And so like a lot of these people are like, not Christian, and they're like, they do new age practices and stuff. And so they approach like other spiritualities and like especially Christianity, especially other like Christians and stuff. These new agers, like a lot of these new agers, like treat Christians like they're like unenlightened turd goblins. And I think that's just like such a sad thing because it's like you're literally perpetuating the behavior that you didn't like in these Christians. So it's like, why would you create a spirituality where you're gonna like treat people like that? You know? Like me personally, like I don't fuck with like the pagan gods and stuff like that. Like nowadays, like trust me, there was a time when I did, and like, I was really into it. You could probably find my video on like who I am and stuff like that, and like what is Gnostic Christian, like what is Gnostic revival. Like watch that video, and I think I go into like some of the stuff I practice. But anyway, I just don't practice like that anymore, and like that's just not my vibe, and and shit like that. And like when people start giving me the vibe that they're looking down on me, because like I believe in like a savior and I believe in being redeemed and things of that nature. Uh, when people start looking down on me, like I fucking hate that. That like that shit triggers the shit out of me, man. And like I will like totally like shut you down, man. Like like that shit doesn't fly with me, you know? Because like, even though I think you're a fucking pagan heathen, like I don't think you're unenlightened. I think that like I will listen to everybody's perspective, and there's like some things where I've like listened to people and I'm like, wow, I should work on that. Or I'm like, oh wow, never realized that about the gospel or something like that, and it gives me something to chew on and to challenge myself with, and shit like that. But I don't think people are fucking unenlightened. And then like, when you push back on their fucking perception of like what is spirituality and things like that, and they get like, oh, and they get so pissy, like, oh my god, man, like, and anybody who's like on spiritual Twitter or X, like deals with this all the time, like with each other. It's so crazy. I don't know. But we're finally at that time. It's 7 o'clock. I hope y'all had a really great time. I did. Like I just like rambled pretty much. But with everything weird that's going on and like the uncertainty and stuff like that, like just lean into your spirit. Lean into God. Lean into the higher things because those are the things that truly matter. Like we can talk about culture and politics and stuff like that, but what really matters is like, connecting to the higher things and like making sure that you're living out the things that you want to live out. Whether, you have the perception that you want to get something ready for the future for future children, like, grow a tree in which you'll never sit in the shade of. That's like kind of where I am. But if you don't have that mindset and you're like, I'm still trying to like liberate myself because I was like so oppressed. Like it depends on like where you are and your journey and stuff like that. I get it. All I'm saying is that in this world where illusion is the norm, things are always going to be chaotic. And I kind of always leave off on this note. So always lean on God, and may the light of the Most High always be with you. I love you all. Thank you for listening. I had so much fun. Man, goodbye. 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 Oh my, why does this always happen? Why does this always happen?